Easily the best part of the movie, Grindelwald stole the show away from Newt. Now there are 99 problems with this movie, but Grindelwald is not one of them. Let's talk villains. So Grindelwald is supposed to be visiting Hitler, or as I heard one person say, Charlie Manson. If you don't know who he is, look him up, but only if you're capable of dealing with some really terrible things. He was a terrible human being. Grindelwald is charming and cruel. He's terrifying, and we see again and again throughout the movie why he's terrifying, why everyone fears him. Many people haven't seen this movie yet, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail than I usually do. In the beginning of the movie, we see him in prison. Rather than lesser our opinion of him, this just builds it for the lengths that they went to make him secure in this prison. He's in this empty room. He has this invisible force field around him that electrocutes anything that comes too near him. We hear the other people say that they had to switch the guards 3 times because he kept on convincing them over to his side. We are building up to seeing how powerful he is, and then they carry him out and they put him into the prison because they're moving him to Europe so he can be held for trial for his crimes. And then we see the fact that wasn't actually Grindelwald, that was one of the guards that they switched. When he convinced one of the guards over to his side, they switched people. Takes out the entire carriage full of people. We see twice his cruelty in this scene. We see it the first time when the man's grabbing onto his arm and he twists his arm and the man falls into the ocean below. And we see it the second time when his lizard pet cuddles with him and he's like, oh, so needy, and he throws it into the ocean. Now, I was worried here because I thought they were going to make it that he had a pet lizard like Voldemort's pet snake, but when he throws it into the ocean, we are dealing with an entirely different villain here. It was incredibly well done. Now, the god who had looked like him, he rewards by growing him back a tongue. A forked tongue, but a tongue. Because he was the one with his tongue cut out, and not Grindelwald. It's a really quick answer to that question, and it shows the fact that he actually cares about his followers, not a lot, but he's not going to kill them in a wild rage like Voldemort does in the 7th book. Now, they tell us again that they aren't reusing the same villain when him and his followers are looking for a place to stay, and they kill the Muggle family, and they find their child. And instead of killing him, Grindelwald leaves the room, leaving his followers to decide what to do, and of course his followers kill the child. But Grindelwald had just said right before this that he wasn't going to kill all of the Muggles, that he was going to leave some of them as slaves. He allowed his followers to make the decision of whether or not they wanted that child as a slave or whether they wanted to kill it. I love that. It showed, again, that he didn't feel the need to kill everyone. He isn't Voldemort. He isn't passionate about doing everything himself and getting his hands dirty. He has a vision. And it might be a terrible vision, but he's not just trying to get ultimate power for himself. I loved how it showed him convincing people to join him, how it showed him in that one scene in the first movie that we really see him having more followers than it ever showed Voldemort having in the entire movies. I love that. I loved him convincing Queenie to join him. I think that it could have been built up a little bit better, but I loved it. I loved that it showed it would be a fight of family against family. I loved that his followers were shown to be loyal. In the Harry Potter books, it's mentioned that a lot of them only followed Voldemort out of fear. It's really poorly shown, but it is mentioned, and these people were just loyal to the cause. I loved how he manipulated the Alls and called them forwards and then made them seem guilty. And my favorite part of the entire movie was the fact that Grindelwald was using World War II as his motivator. That is why, if not why he was doing this, why he was convincing everyone else to do this. I loved the line, "not another one." I loved the fear and the terror of this nation, of these nations that had just had their entire lives thrown apart by World War I, and now he's showing them that if they don't stop it, there will be another war. There will be another war. World War I was supposed to be the war to end all wars, and he's showing them that it wasn't. That they will have another war like it, and I love that that was the motivator. It was beautiful. We need to talk about the Dumbledores and his relations with the Dumbledores. I really liked what they were doing with Albus until the conclusion. I loved the scene with the Mirror of Aristad. I loved what I thought was going to be a blood brothers vow. I loved how it showed Grindelwald carrying that reminder with him everywhere. I loved that it showed that he knew Dumbledore and he knew how manipulating Dumbledore was, and then he said to Newt, "Will Dumbledore mourn you?" It really called into question how he viewed Dumbledore, if he knew Dumbledore was this manipulating, and how he viewed the half of the relation. Because in his side of the relationship, he saw Dumbledore torn against his family, and then he saw him torn against him. So, I really would love to see more of their friendship or lovers or whatever they were from Grindelwald's point of view. So I hated the Blood Pact. It explains why Grindelwald needed someone to fight Dumbledore, but I hated it for three reasons. I hated the idea that these best of friends had to make an oath that they would never raise their wands against each other. That's usually taken for granted when you're best friends or lovers or whatever they were. I hated the fact that it kind of makes the whole... They had a massive fight. Him, Albus, Elberforth, Grindelwald had a massive fight. And they killed Ariana. How are they supposed to have a massive fight if they can't raise their wands against each other? It doesn't make any sense. And I hated it because it gave Dumbledore this incredibly quick excuse out that he just... It's supposed to be about their feelings. That's why they're not supposed to fight each other. And now they're making this be this blood pact. It's just giving him an easy excuse for why he didn't fight when he tells Harry why he didn't fight. And he didn't fight because he was a coward, because he didn't want to face Grindelwald, and because he was afraid of finding out the truth of who killed his sister. I hated the blood pact. It was... Aside from that, I loved Jude Law playing Dumbledore. I loved how he was just manipulating as ever. That was great. The biggest spoiler warning I can give, this is the plot of the movie. Credence, or whatever his actual name is, Dumbledore. Okay, so first I thought it gave it a really good reason for why he's been chasing this kid down for the entire movie. But second, it was completely unnecessary and it made no sense. He didn't even know who Credence was in the first movie. And now they're making him a Dumbledore. It's... If they make him like a distant cousin or something, then I will be okay with it. But if that line that line about your brother is trying to kill you better be referring to this dude. Because if it's not referring to this dude, then I will have a serious problem with it. A, Albus and Aberforth aren't trying to kill him. B, there was no way to make this kid their brother without going completely against canon. And C, it would just be so far over the top and unnecessary that. But if it is referring to this dude, then it can walk in the idea that Grindelwald wasn't actually talking about Credence, he was talking about himself and the fact that Albus has turned against him and to all that he knows is trying to kill him. And they spend way too long with Creed's backstory, and nobody cares about Creed's backstory. They're deliberately misleading us for the entire film, and it's unnecessary, and they leave us with this terrible cliffhanger at the end. And that's not the way that phoenixes walk. Okay, that's just not the way that phoenixes walk. Phoenixes burst into flames. When they die, they are reborn as a chick. Then they grow up slowly, then they grow old, and then they burst into flames, die, and are reborn from the ashes. This was fairly well explained in the Harry Potter books. They don't reborn, grow up in 5 seconds and whatever. Just saying. So I've labelled Grindelwald as a MegaVillain, and I hold by that. He is evil. He will not be redeemed, except if you count in the 7th Harry Potter book when he doesn't side with Voldemort after years in solitary confinement, but that is so far in the future, I'm not counting it. He is far more powerful than Voldemort ever was, and they spend the entire movie showing that. They never shy away from it. I love that. The flame spell to show that someone's loyal. I love that. It shows that Voldemort's spell of only being able to cross something if you have a dark mark on your arm. It would be this arm. This is your left arm. Is just a weak mimicry of his powers. He probably heard of Grindelwald's flame spell, tried to copy it, and couldn't. He's an incredibly powerful threat. Grindelwald is an incredibly powerful threat, and they spent the entire movie just building up how powerful he is. But he isn't born, and he isn't born because of his relation with others, with Credence and with Albus. Although they kind of ruin those. However, I am fairly sure that someone will end up betraying him. I don't know who, but I'm fairly sure that someone will end up betraying him. Which is a common trope of MegaVillains, is that they are betrayed by one of their minions. Just gonna say again, there are 99 problems with this movie, but Grindelwald is just not one of them. If you want to see more like this, hit subscribe, check out my video on Voldemort and my unpopular Harry Potter opinions. I'll link them below. Let me know if you like by hitting that thumbs up. Comment your opinions below on Grindelwald and the movie, and what you liked and what you didn't, and farewell for now, my minions.